All right, today we're going on a bit of an adventure. We're heading deep, deep into the jungles of the Americas to track down a tiny and pretty secretive parasite, Echinococcus oligarthrus. Now, I'm guessing that's a name you've never heard before, but it plays this incredible, hidden role in its ecosystem. And you'll want to stick around, because we're going to find out how this jungle creature can end up a whole world away. So, let's start with a little riddle. What in the world could possibly connect a massive predator, like a puma, a small rodent just doing its thing on the forest floor, and a person who's traveled thousands of miles from home? Sounds totally random, right? Well, the answer is the microscopic organism at the heart of our story today.
You've probably heard about tapeworms, right? I mean, the ones that usually grab the headlines are species like Echinococcus granulosus. That's the one that often involves dogs and sheep and can be a real problem for people. But today, we're focusing on its much, much rarer cousin, a true specialist that's built its whole life to survive out in the wild, far from us.
Yeah, unlike its relatives that kind of use domestic animals to get around, Echinococcus oligarthrus is a true creature of the jungle. It's carved out this perfect little niche for itself, and it relies almost entirely on wild cats and forest rodents to live out its life.
So, what exactly is this thing? To really get it, we're going to put together a kind of identity card for Echinococcus oligarthrus, figure out where it belongs in the big picture and, how it actually makes a living.
Okay, so check this out. That term, obligatory endoparasite, is absolutely key here. This isn't just a lifestyle choice, like, oh, I think I'll live inside another animal. No. This tapeworm has to live inside a host to survive. It's totally dependent on them for everything. Food, shelter, the whole shebang.
And this is a really crucial point. We are not talking about a simple, single-celled germ like an amoeba here. Echinococcus oligarthrus is a metazoan. It's a complex, multi-celled animal with different kinds of tissues. And get this, it doesn't have a mouth or a stomach. Instead, it just soaks up all the nutrients it needs right through its skin-like surface. And here's its official address in the animal kingdom, so to speak. It's a flatworm, specifically a tapeworm, from that notorious Taenidae family. Even its name tells a story. Echinococcus means hedgehog berry, which kind of describes the spiny look of its cysts. And oligarthrus, that means few joints, which points to the simple body of the adult worm. Pretty neat, huh?
Now this is where the story gets really dramatic. The life cycle. I mean, how does this parasite get around? Its entire existence is basically a high-stakes play that unfolds across the jungle food web.
So, to get a handle on this, let's borrow this diagram from the CDC. Now, this one shows a more common species that uses dogs and sheep. The basic process is exactly the same, but for our parasite, you just got to swap out the cast of characters for a much wilder bunch. So think pumas instead of dogs and forest rodents instead of sheep.
So you see how perfectly this is timed with nature? It's kind of brilliant. The adult worm is just hanging out in a wildcat's intestines, shedding eggs. Then, a rodent comes along and accidentally eats those eggs, and the parasite forms cysts inside it. And then, when that rodent gets eaten by another cat, bam, the cycle starts all over again.
And this lays out the main players in our jungle drama. The definitive hosts, where the adult worm gets to reproduce, are wildcats like pumas. The intermediate hosts, where the larva grows, are rodents. And then there's the accidental host, us. If a person swallows the eggs, we basically become a dead end for the parasite. The cysts can still cause disease, but the life cycle gets cut short.
Okay, so that brings us to a really fascinating modern puzzle. How on earth does a parasite that is so locked into this specific jungle cycle in South America suddenly pop up in a hospital in a country like the Netherlands?
Well, when you put it like this, it's crystal clear. Back on its home turf in South America, the parasite has everything it needs to keep its cycle going in the wild. But in a place like the Netherlands, there are no pumas or agoutis. The parasite just can't set up shop. The only way it can get there is by hitching a ride inside an infected human traveler.
And this quote here is so important. A case with a really similar parasite showed up in the Netherlands, and it was a massive wake-up call. It's proof that in our totally connected world, doctors everywhere have to think globally. They have to ask that one critical question: where have you traveled?
All right, so let's talk about the what if. In the incredibly rare event that a person does become an accidental host, how do doctors even figure it out? And maybe more importantly, what can you do to make sure this never happens to you?
Yeah, diagnosing this is not a simple one-and-done test. It's more like detective work. Doctors will use imaging like a CT scan to literally find the cyst. Interestingly, this species usually forms a single cyst, not the complex ones some of its cousins make.
Then they can use blood tests to look for an immune response, and even powerful DNA tools like PCR to get a positive ID on the exact species. And treatment? That's a job for specialists, often involving tough medications and complex surgery no matter where you are in the world.
So here's the good news. Prevention is actually pretty straightforward. It really just boils down to good basic hygiene when you're traveling in Central or South America. Washing your hands, making sure your fruits and veggies are clean, drinking safe water, and just keeping a respectful distance from wildlife. That's your best defense.
So as we wrap up, what can this ancient parasite really teach us? Let's take a look at what modern science has uncovered about its deep, deep history and what it all means for us today.
Now, this number might look a little technical, but it tells a fascinating story. It represents the tiny variations in the parasite's DNA. And with this many variations, Echinococcus oligarthrus actually has more genetic diversity than its more famous relatives. What does that tell us? It suggests this is a very, very old lineage, kind of like a living fossil that's been evolving with its wild hosts for an incredibly long time.
And this, right here, is the big takeaway. The story of Echinococcus oligarthrus isn't just about some rare tapeworm. No, it's a powerful reminder that in a world that's so connected by travel, we just have to stay on our toes. Understanding even the rarest organisms out there is absolutely vital for global health.
Now, everything we've covered in this explainer was put together using a Gemini deep search. And if you're curious and you want to dive even deeper into the science yourself, you can find a whole list of our sources in the Notebook LM document that we've linked for you down in the description.
So we'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. In a world where we can cross the entire globe in just a few hours, what does the idea of a foreign disease even mean anymore?
Hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden world of parasites, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to the channel and maybe ring that notification bell. Your support and your feedback really help us tackle more of these complex topics. Thanks so much for watching.